Phil Rizdon, what's up? How you doing?
What up, man? How you doing? How's life?
Great. I'm glad to have you on the program. So, how's this year been for you so far?
I've been joking with my friends. Admittedly, this year has been really great for me, which makes me
Okay.
feel a little a little guilty,
Yeah.
because it's so crazy. But yeah, life's been really great. I live in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and stuff like that. And before the pandemic, I was running a bunch of different shows and all that stuff. Getting small crowds, trying anything I could do. And then the pandemic hit, and we started doing more like outdoor stuff, rooftop stuff during the summer. And next thing I know, my crowd and audience like quadrupled
Oh,
like
wow.
overnight. Um, so it was really great. Yeah. So it kind of helped me in the scene a little bit, but most of all, it just really helped my brand and everything. So
Well,
so
that's
like
great that your events have been growing. And I have to admit, you've been actually putting the work because I've seen you post a lot and I can tell you hustle because from when it started out, like from what I've seen earlier, but when COVID first began, you had like a couple of comedians on there, but then started growing to a lot of comedians and you posted photos of a lot of people of the crowd like attending the event. But yeah, I've noticed it's been growing too.
yeah, shit's been crazy, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was a weird thing. I mean, regardless, from going to small shows or even bigger shows like this, I'm still, not famous or anything like that. But it was like a nice like energy to kind of come in, and it was very surprising because it's like going from struggling to get 15 people to come to your fucking show, and they're there and they're talking, and you're like trying to just buy them drinks to get them to, be into it and everything, and then going to like 60 people. So it was really nice to have and kind of like validating in a little bit too, just being like, oh, okay, I've been I've been pushing this boulder up a hill for so long, and
Yeah.
now I'm on the other side, So
Yeah.
fucking good. It's cool. There's been some good things. Like the pandemic, I feel like is obviously it's terrible for families and like
Yeah.
older people and stuff like that, and a lot of like poor people and everything. I am a poor person as well, but it's good for creatives. I feel like personally because it
Yeah.
either got you to kind of optimize your online content, or it forced you to like hunker down and actually do whatever projects you had been telling yourself you were going to do for a really long time. Like I've written like 3 screenplays. I've written a bunch of sketches and stuff like that. I'm
Oh,
about to
wow.
start a podcast of my own, and it's just way easier. Like I just have so much more time. So it's kind of nice.
You've been doing comedy for a while now, so what got you interested in doing that as a career?
Well, it's kind of crazy. So like being a kid, I always wanted to do comedy, I guess you could say. Like from the time I was like probably like maybe 6 or 7, I knew that like I always loved TV, but like I knew that like there was a writer and a director and like producers and people that make the thing exist, and it's all fake. And I always wanted to be a part of that. Like I
Mhm.
thought that was so cool. Like something about it, I was like, this is so interesting. Like the names behind the names,
Yeah.
I thought was really interesting. So I fell in love with that, and originally thought of like, oh, I want to be a director, and then got older and realized the writer makes the story, not the director. So I was
Mhm.
like, I'll be a writer, and I always loved comedy. And then in high school, how can I say this? I was a not so great student. Speaking of how much I love TV, I used to think high school was almost like those sitcoms, where like the older brother is a terrible student, but somehow he gets into college anyway.
Yeah.
I thought that's like what school was. I was like, oh, I'll just be okay. Little did I realize that does not happen.
Yeah.
So I was stuck here for community college and still loving comedy. All my friends are gone, and just seeing it over and over and over again, and being at that age where you get to analyze the specific type of comedy you love, whether it's like Gary Shandling or something, or like Judd Apatow movies, or Chappelle or the Boondocks or something. You get to like curate your own shit. It's the first time late in your teens where you really get to understand yourself.
Yeah.
So after doing that, I saw so much of it, and I realized I could do it, or felt I could do it. And then I basically lied to my mother. I told her I was moving out to New York to still go to community college, or whatever. And I but as soon as decided I was moving to New York, I knew I was going to drop out of school.
Mm.
You know, and that's really how I like started. I basically moved in to my like small apartment, my room in a small apartment, and my brother helped me move in, I believe. Yeah, and then they dropped me off, and immediately that day, I just dropped my bags and went to an open mic, and I haven't looked back since. So yeah, long story, but yeah, that's how that.
It's funny what you mentioned earlier. I want to say, like in elementary school, I grew up watching Saved by the Bell. So I always thought like that's how high school would be for me. Like growing up
Yeah,
here in South Florida, and the high school that I went to was like an F grade school. So it was like just real, like
really bad. Yeah,
really bad high school here, like, talking about, like, fights almost every day going on, gang
uh,
violence, a lot of stuff going on. So, for this whole time, I'm thinking, "Oh, man, I can't wait to join high school. It's gonna be like Saved
yeah.
by the Bell. I'm gonna have, like, live that Zach Morris lifestyle, like, get
Oh,
with the most popular girl in the school as a cheer."
yeah.
I was like, "That's high school. That's gonna be high school," and totally wasn't for me.
Oh no, it definitely isn't. I think writers too, like as I've been writing more and thinking of more ideas, I do think we have more of a responsibility to like portray things,
Oh, yeah.
at least for kids,
Oh,
as
yeah.
a more realistic uh,
Mm.
way of life. Like as far as like school and like love, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
those are two things that greatly impacted me watching TV all the time. And I wish I would have known. I don't know what was up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
just from the jump. And it's like, like my mom's single mom, so she wasn't around all the time. So I'm watching that and I'm getting most of my lessons from that,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
it makes it a lot harder in your regular life. Like if I would have not watched Boy Meets World or something and saw Eric be a terrible fucking student and still get to college with his brother,
Yeah.
which is still kind of lame. It's like you're going to college with your brother. But it's like if I didn't see that, you know,
Yeah.
and instead saw him not give a shit and then can't get in anywhere, I would have had more of a complex of like, shit, all right, so you can goof around, but you
Yeah.
got to do what you got to do,
Yeah.
shit like that, So it's like, that's one thing I try to like put in more. It's like I want to make it entertaining, I want to make it
Yeah.
fun, still tropes, but at the same time, you gotta leave something there for the kids,
Oh, yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Well, and you're really big into movies, and you've been posting some things on your YouTube channel called Rizdon
Yes,
Reviews. So, do you wanna explain what that is?
there is the reviews. So basically, what they are is, like you're saying, it's a YouTube series that I need to stay more on top of, quite frankly. But basically, I watch a movie, and I basically like I review it, but they're mostly just movies that I like.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Like if you watch them, I give like an in-depth analysis of all the movies that I watch. But you
Mhm.
notice I don't give any of the movies below 3 stars, because they're all movies. Like I don't see the point of like really like bringing out movies I don't like and shitting on somebody else's filmmaking. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I might
Yeah.
disagree with components or
Yeah.
segments of it, but all in all, if I'm going to show you something on YouTube, I want to show you something that you're going to watch and be like, "Fuck, that was cool,"
Yeah.
and like really strange or inventive.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's basically all I do. It's relatively simple, but I really, I really love it, honestly. I just love talking movies, man. You a movie
So
guy?
I am. It's hard to find, for at least for me, I don't know much people that actually are really into movies as much as I am. I mean, a lot of people can say they like movies, but I really like look at a movie, and I love movie series too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it too. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can really analyze things too. You know what I
Oh, yeah.
mean? Like within scenes and stuff, and really break stuff down. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any movie recommendations for our listeners?
Yeah, sure. There's a few actually that I really like. So, there's a couple episodes on my YouTube, but there's a few episodes I'm about to put out. And one of the movies that I really like is this movie called John versus His Future Self, and it's basically it's an indie sci-fi movie, which I really really love because like indie sci-fi is so fun because it's like they're doing so much work with no money, you know? So they're trying to like figure out ways to do it. And obviously, like a lot of times with indie sci-fi too, it's like because they have no money, they can't show you the thing that a regular sci-fi movie would be showing you.
Uh-huh.
So they're figuring out like clever ways to still have you be engaged. So it usually makes the story a lot stronger too.
Yeah.
But basically, the plot of it is this guy's his name is John, and he's a scientist, an astrophysicist, trying to come up with a way for people to time travel.
Hmm.
And he's about to make a major breakthrough, and then all of a sudden is kidnapped by his older self, who has come to the past.
Okay.
Uh, and it's just kind of about that. I mean, that's the most I'll tell you,
Yeah.
but that's that movie to me, and a lot of those movies too that I pick. Some are truly amazing, amazing, but you know, or extraordinary. But a lot of them are just really good movies that I think people should see, and they're like, you know, they don't have to be art house movies. You know, they're just fun,
Yeah.
but it's just they're indie, and I want to help like filmmakers who are still trying to sell their thing. You know,
Yeah.
so that's a really good one. Wrist Cutters is a really good one too. That's kind of an older movie. Has some people that you might recognize in it and stuff. What is it? You ever watch Boardwalk Empire?
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi's brother
Okay.
is in the movie. Yeah, he plays like a Russian guy in it and stuff like that. There's a bunch of good people. I think Emil Hirsch, I believe, is in it. You know, pretty good.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I like indie movies that I can tell are cheaply made, but really, really well made at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, they just didn't have the best camera, but they have the best shots. You know
Oh,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I love that type of stuff.
As long as the content is good, that's all that matters.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you know how to direct and you know how to edit and
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
and the sound is great, that's
Yeah.
all you really need. You know, you can have shitty video quality
Yeah.
and people will deal with it because we
Yeah.
still watch old shit, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
As long as it's good, it's good. So
Oh,
just
yeah.
make it good.
Yeah.
What about you? Like, what type of movies and stuff do you usually watch? Do you like? And you know,
Well, I'm a science fiction fan. I wouldn't say I delve too much deep into science fiction. I would say I'm more of like a big Star Wars person.
of course,
I
yeah,
love James Bond movies. Like I watch every one. I know there's one coming up, and I'm always on those James Bond movies.
excited. All right.
Yeah, yeah. I'm basic like that though. When I say I like movies, it's like stuff like that.
No, but you can still find the art in movies like that.
Uh
Like
huh.
that's the thing. I mean, half of the movies, not half of them, but a small section of the movies on, you know, my recent reviews are relatively big movies. They're, you know, they're like Netflix movies. You
Yeah.
know, a Spike Lee movie or something like that. You know, like I'm gonna do one, Midnight Sky. It has George Clooney in it.
Okay.
You know, so it's like you can still, I mean, there's a reason those directors are the biggest directors in the
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
And it's not just nepotism and who you know. It's
Yeah.
a lot of it's because they're extremely talented and they know how to drive a story, you know? So
Yeah.
there's no guilt in that. I always tell people, I'm like, man, if something's good, it's good. I do not care. I like Drake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. If the song's good, the song's good.
Well, it's funny when I was young, I don't know if you remember the movie Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, when that movie came out, I think this was like the mid '90s when it came out. That to me, that was the greatest movie ever. Like you
It's
couldn't
an
tell
awesome
me
movie.
anything different. Yeah, it still holds. Like it is
It
still a good
does.
movie.
Honestly, it's even more poignant now.
Oh, yeah, yeah. People got to get into it to really understand that statement. But yeah, I mean, there's so much like you can break down that movie. But like when I was a kid, that was the best movie ever. And then as I became an adult, I'm like, I was a kid at the time. But yeah, you're right. Now that I think about it, like you think about a lot of stuff that goes on there. Like that's a deep movie.
Dude, that movie is deep as fuck. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, that movie is deep as fuck. So is Total Recall. They're deep as fuck. Yeah, I agree with you. Judge Dredd is fucking awesome.
Thank you. And you mentioned that your events that you've been throwing, and you actually start these events yourself because you actually have your own entertainment company. So, what got you into starting that?
So that my whole thing was it kind of all happened organically. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I used to fucking hate when people would say that, but but it definitely did. So I was running shows for quite a while before, but whenever it'd be like brought to you by, it would always say Phil Rizdon or whatever. And I moved into this place. So right now I'm living in kind of like one of those like artist buildings, where like
Mhm.
everybody's like a painter and a writer and all that stuff. And before the pandemic, we used to throw a lot of shows here, like rock shows and stuff, and because we have a huge basement area, and it's like there's like a full bar, like it's crazy, it's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. That's why I moved in here because I was like I can throw comedy shows here, and I live on Grove Street, so as I was throwing more shows, not just here but in other places, I started putting together that company name, and it's helped me so much just because like when it comes to comedy, I don't like feeling like I'm powerless, because there's so
Mhm.
much in comedy and in entertainment. There's so much that you're dealing with that is fully out of your control.
Mhm.
That like for me, it fucks with my head, quite frankly. Like it makes me like anxious and weird because it's just like there's nothing like this, where it really doesn't matter how talented it does matter like who you know, and
Yeah.
not as much as how good you are or whatever. And that's a long story, but all that shit. So having different shows, running different shows, putting different people on, that makes me feel in more control of my own destiny and what I want to do, and it gives me more autonomy.
Yeah.
And yeah, the name just came out of that, and that's really how it's been. It's been great, too. I love it.
And you throw these events, I think it's called house parties, so how can people catch those events?
Yeah. So yeah, my event is called House Party the Show, and basically it's just a standard comedy show. We usually it depends because I've had iterations where we have a full jazz band, and then we'll have a
Mhm.
band play after. That's what we used to do when it was here.
Nice.
So it was a variety show. So it'd be a full jazz band backing the comedians and playing before the show.
Yeah.
And then after we'd have another local band headline, like after the comedians.
Yeah.
Um, Now, because of regulations and stuff, we've had to kind of strip that part out.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, if you want to catch the show, basically follow me on Instagram. I have an Insta, and it's just House Party the Show. And then you can follow me on Instagram at Grove Street Comedy. That's Grove Street Comedy, or follow me on Instagram at Phil Rizdon. And yeah, and those are the three ones I have. So you can check up on the shows. I rotate a lot of the posts, between the three and stuff like that. So if you have one of them, you'll probably get the posts that I'm sending from the others. But
Yeah.
also still follow me because I need that.
Yeah.
Trying to build a brand here, baby.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, and since you're a movie buff, are you a fan of maybe the house party movies? Is that where you get
Oh yeah,
the
I fucking love House Party. So that was a big thing. So the first iterations of the House Party posters constantly had House Party
Yeah.
like scenes in them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
them two dancing or like Tisha Campbell and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that. And that's how it was for like the first like 8 to 9 months of having the show. I've had this show going on 2 years now, which is insane because this one
Yeah.
year shouldn't technically count, like
Yeah.
the 1 year anniversary was gonna be last March 2020, and then this time it's happening and it's like nothing has really occurred enough for
Yeah.
me to deserve a year anniversary. But yeah, that's so it was always tied in with House Party, the movie, and that's why I called it House Party the show
Yeah.
rather than just House Party.
Yeah.
um yeah, so tied into that, I used to fucking love that movie. House Party 2, okay, you know what I
Yeah.
mean. But I loved House Party 1, and I also loved House Party 4 with Marcus Houston. I don't know if you ever seen House
I
Party
did,
4.
yeah. Yeah.
Fucking hysterical. I always it's like bad. It's like so bad it's good.
Yeah.
So I always love that one too.
It's like if you remember that movie, The Room, it's kinda the
Yes,
equivalent to
yes.
that. Yeah.
Very, very room like,
Yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, you can tell it's a quality-wise, it's not good, but it's one of those, like, the content is good.
Yes, exactly. It's like hilarious. I like seeing, Marcus Houston running around in a
Yeah.
montage,
Yeah.
getting dressed and shit.
Yeah. I
Fucking talking about crazy weird movies that are like shitty but good. my friend just showed me this movie yesterday called Twin Sitters.
Hmm.
Have you ever heard about this movie?
Nope.
It's called Twin Sitters, and it's like a old kids movie from the '90s. It came out in like
Okay.
1990. Yeah, and it's these two brothers. What are they? Maybe they're called like the Dudley Brothers. No, they're not. That's a wrestling duo. But it's these two brothers. They're twin brothers, and they're bodybuilders. And they did a series of movies. So this is like one out of like 8 movies that they've
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Um, they're like a grown, ripped version of Mary Kate and Ashley. So it's like they're the same in everything,
Yeah.
but what the movie is might change. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I get it.
So,
Yeah.
so it's like, so yeah, it's basically what happens is they're at a park for some reason. The mafia starts shooting, opening fire in a fucking playground, and
Uh-huh.
they save a bunch of kids. And then some guy's like, "Hey, I'm super rich. You saved my nephew yesterday. How about you guys be their babysitters
Okay.
with no criteria of childcare or
Yeah.
anything."
Yeah.
And hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
And it's fucking weird, man. Look it up, Twin Sitters. It is hilarious. And the writer and director, was the genie from Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's done a lot of campy stuff with like Elvira and all that stuff. So you can go in like a rabbit hole with that. So viewers, check it out.
It's funny. We were talking about earlier about like, movies, how influential they are, especially at a young age. And I grew up watching the house party movies too, and I was a big fan of that. And I mean, I was really young when those movies came out. So I was also thinking, oh, like when I get to college or when I go to a house party, that's how it's gonna be for me. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've seen you posted before about like a short film that you're trying to fundraise. Is that correct? Do you mind
Yeah,
explaining
yeah,
what that's
yeah.
about?
Yeah, it's been great. So basically, we got the money for the short and stuff. We didn't reach our goal, but I kind of it was some like the GoFundMe thing was kind of something I slapped together last minute, just because it was my birthday, and I was like, if I'm gonna get money now, like if I'm gonna get money, I'm probably gonna get the most of it now.
Yeah.
So like, just go for it. And so I went for that. We got a portion of it, which is nice. And I've just been like holding on to that right now. And we're trying to shoot. We're trying to figure it out. But so like, I have that one. But I'm actually in the process of writing another one that I think we might actually shoot instead.
Hmm.
Uh, just because it's slightly easier and there's less locations and stuff like that. But the new thing that I've been writing is it's called Taxi, and it's about the last taxi driver in New York City. So it's set in the future, in like the year like 2049,
Okay.
and it's about the last taxi driver in New York City, and basically all his all taxis are automated now and all that type of everything. So he randomly just loses his job one day, but he becomes famous on the news as like New York City's last taxi driver is closing up shop, and he becomes this instant celebrity, and it's kind of all about that and everything. But yeah, it's been nice, and I've been talking to some people about it. One of my friends who works or used to work for Trauma, they did like the Toxic Avenger and some other like
Okay.
kind of B movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's into it and kind of wants to produce. So I'm just in the process of like figuring out the logistics of shooting it. But it shouldn't take too long, I don't think. So I think we might do that one rather than the other one. The other one has like 15 locations. You know what I mean? Like this one has 2.
Yeah.
It's like way easier. So we'll see how that goes. And film stuff is always weird because like I used to think when I was just starting out writing, like all you have to do is finish the script,
Hmm.
but that's like step one.
Yeah.
It's like but it's like there's so many steps within step one. It's like, how do you write this? All this stuff. But you think like as soon as you're done with the script, that you're like, all right, I'm done. Like I'm so exhausted from that, I can't possibly also produce and and
Yeah.
hit up all these different people for locations and
Oh yeah.
all that stuff. So there's so many different components that go into it. So I've learned a lot just from writing more, and
Mm.
just getting accustomed to that. and not getting so creatively tired after. Like
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
a lot less fatigued now writing a script than I would have been 6 months ago because I just wasn't writing that much. So
Yeah.
like to put together 20, 25 pages, I'm like, all right. And then I'm not going to look at this for another 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and then figure out how to shoot stuff. And, so I'm still working on that about how to be like productive after you're done writing the script, you know, and just get it done as a whole, like not just get the writing done. But it's hard when you're doing it all yourself, and it's not
Yeah.
something like a YouTube show like my Rizdon reviews
Yeah.
or a pod. Like it's a real production that involves a bunch of different people and a bunch of different things, and it's like it's a lot, man. It's fucking a lot, you know.
I try not to, talk too much or like relate my experience and talk about this this program, but I'll say, for
Mhm.
example, what I do here, I always treat it like a business. I mean, like it's not the funnest side of doing this. I mean, the fun part is always just doing these conversations, but I'd say the part that I really that's I wouldn't call it draining, but just like really hard for me is just treating it as a business. Setting up everything, doing the research, and this is all just like the back, like making sure the equipment is right, or looking into developing the equipment or buying new equipment if I'm having problems with the current equipment I have. So it's
Yeah, dude, it's a
always
lot, man.
it's a lot. It's a lot on the back end that people really don't see. And I love to just share more of like I'm trying to make more like how-to videos. So if anyone's interested in doing like what I'm doing, I just know the basics. I don't have a background in electronics or anything like that. I just
Course, but you're trying to do it, and I think that that's you are a lot more inspirational to other people simply because you don't have a background in all that stuff. Because the average person that just wants to make a podcast doesn't either. But
yeah,
when they go onto YouTube and it's like, I have 20 years experience in audio engineering and
yeah,
I'm going to teach you how to, it's like, yeah, that's nice, but it's like, I'm not you,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
always going to feel like I'm slightly doing it wrong,
yeah,
so it's nice to have somebody who's a little bit more accessible and,
yeah,
more down to earth, I guess you could say, or
yeah.
I don't know how to, what word I'm trying to use, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like,
and like my background, I studied anthropology and public health. Like that's just my background. And
mhm.
but yeah, like I just slowly start by baby steps, just going on YouTube, just watching
Yeah,
like videos like you were mentioning, just of people who've had years of experience. And then I was just like, okay, my little brain, how can I get like all that
exactly.
information into my little brain onto like what I have in my head and try to put
Yeah.
it all together.
And you start to build. It's just like the thing with, my old like brand or whatever. It's like you start to build more and more and more. And the longer you're around, more things get associated with your name. It's like, over the course of time, like even before I had Grocery Comedy, I've probably had like 8 to 10 different shows that I've run, probably more than that, maybe like 15
Hmm.
different shows I've run over the course of like 5 years, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like because of that, people get to know my name more and more and associate it with producing shows and doing things and stuff like that. And you start to fall into it too. You get
Yeah.
better at it,
Yeah.
and start to understand yourself a little bit more. So it's always a good time.
Are you trying to work on like any DIY stuff while like what's everything's going on right now? Like just try and teach yourself more and more and trying to achieve your goal with the film that you were talking about?
Well, right now, that's kind of a crazy question. So, like, I was running House Party at a secret location, you
Hmm.
know, like kind of a DIY spot or whatever.
Yeah.
And I kind of did this because I was like, let me push it back like a week or two because like I'm writing an article right now, I'm doing that thing, and I'm trying to write the script and all that shit. But I was like, oh, if I do it on the 30th, I can plug the show, and possibly people who may live in the area might come and see it. But yeah, the show just got shut down
Oh, okay.
about 2 days ago. I didn't even realize it got shut down on Wednesday, but and my show's Friday. But they told me like Thursday night at like 1 a.m. And they're like, yeah, the show's no longer around. And I guess it got cut off because of like curfew reasons, like no like COVID stuff as far as like infections or anything.
Hmm.
But it was all just like they kept on telling them to close at 10, and they'd close a little bit later each time, and
Yeah.
yeah, so they just totally nixed the whole thing. And yeah, so I think for right now, I'm trying to get more into online stuff and
Okay.
try to figure that out. And like I said, I'm writing an article for this website up here called Bushwick Daily. So it's just about comedy during the pandemic and stuff like that. So I'm trying to do more stuff like that, really put together a resume as a writer, and then more of like an online footprint, for
Mhm.
content too.
Mhm.
So,
You mentioned the live shows coming up. Is there anything you can share for our listeners what they should watch out for? Any projects coming up?
yeah, so I would say, as far as something to watch out for, House Party is going to be back. Like I have a bunch of subscribers, like email list subscribers. I wrote them a long letter because they've been with me for so long, and I really appreciated everything that I've done, and I appreciate them for it. So I told them that I'm only giving it depending on what the law says, but in my mind, I'm just going to give it a couple weeks. Maybe we can come back in March,
Okay.
or like mid March or something like that. Um, but the live shows are going to be coming back, so please look out for House Party. It is going to be back soon. We also too. I already have a version of House Party on Zoom. I do a virtual version of
Okay.
it too. Yeah, so Friday is the live show. Saturday is the Zoom show. So if any of you, I don't know when this is coming out, whatever, probably not today, but but if any of you are listening or whatever, we do that every Saturday at 8:30. Follow me on Instagram uh, to get the link. The link is right in my bio. The link is right in my bio. Just click that, and it literally says, House Party Zoom link in my link tree thing. So like, it's very easy to find. So watch that. Check out the recent reviews. I know I need to stay more on top of it, but I have a bunch of them now, so you can at least get a bunch of videos in and enjoy it. And yeah, keep an eye out for my short film, Hard Times, which is the old one that I'm still trying to put together, and my new one, Taxi. Other than that, oh, one more thing. I'm actually starting my own podcast again,
Okay. Nice.
called the House Party Podcast.
Nice.
So that's just going to be me talking to all different artists, similar to this. Kind of just shooting the shit, getting to know who they are, all that type of stuff. Mostly comedians, but musicians, poets, writers, anything, painters, doesn't matter. And yeah, it's just gonna be fun. We're gonna shoot the shit, probably get a little drunk, uh, and I'm planning to be releasing that, I think, every Thursday. So I'm just putting that together right now,
Yeah.
but keep an eye out for it. So just follow me on Instagram, please, at Phil Rizdon, at Grove Street Comedy, at House Party the Show. That's what I need. Everything else, decide what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, since we're wrapping up, is there anything else you would like to share for our listeners?
Hmm. So anything else I would like to share with my listeners? I would say if you're in the New York City area in the next few months, please try as best as you can to support the local businesses around here, because a lot of them are dying, just like they are in a bunch of other areas as well. But in New York, we have to take care of each other. So please, don't go to McDonald's. Try to go to the smaller, the hole in the wall mom and pop shop type stuff, or even comedy clubs out here. Like when they come back, try to support them, because they're not like restaurants or anything else. They're performance spaces, so they've just been hemorrhaging money this whole entire time. This whole
Mhm.
entire time, a lot of them haven't gotten like or they've gotten PPP loans, but it just didn't last as long as they could, and they're in like Union Square. It costs a lot of money, so
Yeah.
try to support businesses, especially small ones, as much as you can, guys. And that's really all I want to say. And love each other. Take care of each other, please.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Appreciate, you coming on the show and us just having this Irie chat together. But Phil Risden, thank you so much for joining us in Irie chat and best of luck on everything.
Hell yeah. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.